Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, and his mercy endures forever. That's one of the most repeated psalms scattered throughout the psalmist. That is a refrain that will be said again and again. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, his mercy endures forever. Now, I don't know about you, but over the last 6 months, it's been harder to find things to be thankful for. And so when I hear that psalmist cry out, I'm reminded there are moments to give thankful for, and I think it's important to celebrate them. And one thing I want to share with you today is that I am thankful that we have a new opportunity coming up, and that's why I'm making this special announcement video. I have some exciting news for you this week. Our church council has determined that we have entered phase 2 of our regathering process, which means we have an opportunity now to have some in-person worship gathering. And so we've set a date, which I want you to mark on your calendar, October 4th. All right, that's our target date to have a semblance of getting back together and begin that journey. Now, it's not going to mean everything is going to look the same. It's going to be a journey. There's going to be a gradual process, but it'll be our first time to have a moment to be together. When I say that, that means we're going to have some measures in place, some fairly strict measures so that we can remain safe, and then we'll continue to gradually move into that over time. So, for example, we're going to have things like wearing masks. We're all going to be required to wear masks to ensure we're not spreading those aerosols in an enclosed space. We'll have spaced out seating in that area, so we won't all have the rows and the lines. And we'll have some social distancing measures in place, so we're not having a lot of cross traffic and things like that. So it's going to be a little bit different. Might be, in your mind, you're expecting one thing, it might look a little bit different, but I want you to keep in mind the most important thing is we're going to get to be together in some sense, and that opportunity is becoming more and more evident. And I am excited to just see some of you and be together with some of you and see your smiling faces. It's been a long time. So part of what we want to do is look at our capacity and give you a warning or a heads up about what it's going to look like. Our current process is going to allow for 50% of seating capacity in our sanctuary. What we want to do is establish how many people are going to be regathering at this point. How many people feel comfortable with coming back and have that level of safety? So what we need is your help in establishing if you're ready to come back, if you're planning on regathering, so that we can make some determinations and all those precautions to ensure safety mechanisms there. What you can expect is that we'll have someone from the church reach out to you, our church membership, and ask your family what your regathering plans are, if you are planning on coming back or not, and what service you would likely be a part of, whether you'd like an early service or a late service, so we can make those numbers. Right now, our plans have been an 8 o'clock parking lot service. We'll continue to have that on September 27th. That's still happening, but we need to make a determination based on those numbers. If they're small and we can have everybody in one worship at 10:30, that's what we'll do. If those numbers are larger, then we'll have to make that decision about breaking up into 2 in-person services as well. Again, this is to ensure that we don't have more than 50% capacity in our sanctuary, so that we can have proper spacing and seating. Based on your response, next week I'll share another video on how we're going to manage that regathering process. So I'll actually make a video that walks us through a Sunday morning, and we'll come in and I'll show you what exactly it's going to look like, so you won't be surprised, and what to expect, and that your comfort level will be at ease as we kind of walk into the shallow end of the pool together. Maybe a lot of us have a lot of questions. We talk about regathering, we might have a lot more questions. Well, what does that look like? How many services are there going to be? You might have 1,000 questions in terms of that. I'll address a lot of those questions in that video next week, exactly what those details and how it's going to look like. What I need, again, is your help letting those church callers know whether you're planning to come in person or not. And then I can tell you how many services there will be. There will definitely be a 10:30 a.m. in-person worship on October 4th. Okay. We're also only focusing on Sunday morning worship at this point. One thing we're not launching is small groups gathering beyond Sunday morning. So we'll continue to have online small group ministry options and outside options available. With that said, I want you to remember that we're going to continue to have the live streaming with virtual communion available. And if that's worked for you and your family, if you found value in that in life, that's not going to go away. You are welcome to continue that worshiping with us online. It's still the safest option available, and particularly if you have health vulnerabilities. It's the recommendation to keep utilizing our online or outdoor options. Now, you might be wondering what in the guidelines has changed for us. We did update our guidelines in our council this past Monday. We were looking at case counts, and those reporting numbers, we were having some problems with the reliability of them. And so we moved to the statewide guidelines that are looking at hospitalizations in the region. That's what the state uses. The number of the state, and we now as the church are following, is keeping hospitalizations of COVID cases must remain below 15% of total hospitalizations in the region. That's our number that we're looking at. And right now we are under that. Our case counts and hospitalizations have been consistently down. Therefore, we recognize that threat level is down, and with proper measures, proper social distancing like masks, we can mitigate that viral spread. I want to be clear, though, that the COVID has not gone away. It's still a real thing. It's still a threat. And if we see a jump in those hospitalizations above the 15% marker, that would send us back to phase 1 and only doing online options or outside once again. Next week, I'll send that video out that will show you what a Sunday morning is going to look like. I'm looking forward to seeing many of you again. By no means should you feel compelled to gather in person if you're not comfortable. I want to make that clear. One thing I also want to be adamant about is that we don't need to judge one another. Who makes a decision about who's coming back in person, and for those who choose to remain worshiping online. Those are both valid things that we as in our leadership have thought through, and I think they're both valid expressions of our worship life together. We have to know that ultimately we are in this boat together. We are in it in love and care and support, and many of us are in different places on that journey. Sometimes when we have different worship opportunities, that can create a divide. So even before COVID, we had things like an 8 o'clock worship time and a 10:30 worship time. And that was never about having two different worshiping communities at peace. It was one. We're still one people, Peace Lutheran Church, called together as the baptized, claimed by God, and that's what's important. That's what unites us as God's people. We have a chance now to remain connected in worship to God, with God and with one another, so that we can be God's people who are claimed and who are sent into the world that needs to hear good news. And so I want you to know that no matter what your choice is or what your comfort level is in all this, you are loved and you will always have a place of belonging in God's kingdom, whatever choices you make in that capacity. God is going to walk with you. And so I would ask that you continue to pray for our leadership as we make these preparations for our church, that we might be united in these critical times, and our world that still needs a message of hope and God's grace. And so let us, as we gather, either online or in person, let us always give thanks to the Lord, for He is good. His mercy endures forever.